There are moments in life that divide everything into two sides. Before it happened, and after it happened. For Bukayo Saka, that moment came on a warm summer night in July 2021, a moment that lasted less than 2 seconds, a short run-up, a strike of the ball, a goalkeeper diving the right way, and then silence. Not just silence inside Wembley Stadium, but silence inside a young man's chest. In that instant, millions of dreams shattered, but one heart was forced to carry the weight of all of them. Yet this story does not truly begin with a missed penalty. It begins long before the world knew his name, long before pressure learned how to pronounce it, in a quiet household shaped by discipline, sacrifice, and belief. Bukayo Saka was raised by Nigerian parents who understood struggle long before fame ever arrived. They taught him structure, humility, and responsibility, not with speeches but with example. Education mattered. Respect mattered. Hard work was non-negotiable. From an early age, Bukayo learned that nothing valuable comes without effort, and nothing lasting comes without patience. He was not the loudest child chasing attention, not the biggest boy demanding space, but he had something far more powerful than noise: consistency. While others trained when motivation felt good, Bukayo trained because it was required. While others complained about fatigue, he adjusted. While others chased praise, he chased progress. At Arsenal's Hale End Academy, coaches noticed him not because he demanded the spotlight, but because he never disappeared. He listened closely, absorbed criticism without ego, corrected mistakes without excuses, and returned the next day better than before. He stayed late, not to impress, but to improve. Some players burn bright early and fade when pressure arrives. Others grow slowly, quietly, and then burn forever. Bukayo Saka was always the second type. When he reached Arsenal's first team, he entered a club in transition, burdened by expectation, desperate for identity, and starving for hope. The badge was heavy, the criticism relentless, and the margin for error razor thin. But Bukayo played with a freedom that felt unnatural for his age. He ran without fear, defended with pride, attacked with intelligence, and sacrificed for the team without hesitation. Fans trusted him. Teammates leaned on him. Managers relied on him. He didn't just belong. He carried responsibility as if he had been preparing for it his entire life. Then came England. Representing your country is a dream wrapped in pressure, and for England, the weight was historical. Decades without a major trophy. Decades of heartbreak. Decades of hope crushed at the final moment. Euro 2020, delayed to 2021, felt different. The energy felt heavier. The belief louder. Match by match, England advanced, and Bukayo Saka, still a teenager, played like pressure didn't recognize his name. He was fearless, composed, decisive. Wembley became a fortress of hope, and the nation began to believe again. Until the final. England versus Italy. 90 minutes passed. Extra time followed. Legs tired. Minds raced. And then football's cruelest test arrived. Penalties. Every footballer knows a penalty is never just a kick. It is a conversation with fear, a mirror held up to doubt, a moment where confidence and consequence collide. Senior players stepped back. The responsibility moved forward. And somehow, impossibly, it landed on the shoulders of a 19-year-old boy. Bukayo Saka picked up a ball and walked toward the penalty spot. Imagine that walk. Thousands watching in the stadium. Millions watching around the world. An entire nation holding its breath. This is where legends are born, or where scars are carved into memory. He struck the ball. The goalkeeper guessed right. The save was clean. Game over. England lost. In that single second, Bukayo Saka became the face of a nation's heartbreak. But heartbreak was only the beginning. What followed was darker than defeat. Social media turned ruthless. Racist abuse flooded his messages. Slurs, threats, words designed to humiliate, dehumanize, and destroy. The same voices that once cheered his name now spat hatred. A teenager, blamed for a loss that belonged to a team, forced to carry pain that no one his age should ever have to endure. Many people never recover from moments like this. Some retreat, some disappear, some allow the world to convince them they are not enough. This is where most stories collapse. This is where dreams quietly die. But Bukayo Saka did not collapse. He went quiet. No angry interviews. No excuses. No public breakdown. Instead, he returned to the only place that had ever given him answers. Wake. Training sessions became therapy. Recovery became reflection. He leaned on his family, leaned on his values, leaned on the discipline that shaped him long before the world ever tested him. Arsenal stood by him. Fans painted murals. Strangers sent messages of love. But healing doesn't come from applause. Healing comes from acceptance. Bukayo accepted the pain, accepted the mistake, accepted that greatness always demands a price. He didn't ask, "Why me?" He asked, "What next?" And that question is a line between defeat and destiny. When he returned to the pitch, he did not return as a victim. He returned as a student. Every touch sharper, every decision faster, every movement intentional. Opponents targeted him. Crowds tested him. Pressure followed him. But something had changed. There was steel behind the smile now, calm behind the kindness, strength behind the silence. He had been broken in public and rebuilt in private. Goals came. Assists followed. Performances stacked up. The same stadium that once watched him fall now watched him rise. Yet deep inside, one question remained unanswered. What happens when the moment comes again? What happens when fear knocks a second time? What happens when fate offers another penalty, another silence, another chance? Because redemption never rushes. It waits. It waits for the perfect moment. And somewhere in the future, another penalty spot was waiting for Bukayo Saka. Another test, another conversation with fear. And this time, the ending would not be the same. Fear never leaves for good. It waits. It hides in memory. And when it thinks you've healed, it returns. After the missed penalty, the world moved on faster than Bukayo Saka was allowed to. Headlines changed. Tournaments ended. New heroes were celebrated. But inside his mind, the moment replayed without mercy. The walk to the spot, the strike, the save, the noise that followed. For most people, time erases pain. For athletes, time sharpens it. Every training session, every stadium, every big moment whisper the same question. What if it happens again? And this is the stage where many careers quietly break. Not from lack of talent, but from fear of repetition. Bukayo returned to Arsenal not as a carefree teenager fans once knew, but as a young man carrying invisible weight. He smiled, he worked, he played, but behind every touch lived a test. Could he still take responsibility? Could he still demand the ball when pressure rose? Could he still believe in his own bravery? Because confidence loss is not loud. It fades slowly. And the most dangerous battles are the ones no one can see. Training became his battlefield. Not against opponents, but against doubt. He arrived early, stayed late, repeated drills others avoided. Penalties after training. Over and over. Miss score. Miss again. Score again. He didn't rush healing. He forced it through repetition. Because courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is choosing action while fear is present. And Bukayo chose action every single day. The Premier League does not forgive weakness. Opponents sensed his history and tested him mercilessly. Heavy tackles, tight marking, hostile crowds reminding him of that night. Every away stadium tried to reopen the wound. Some players hide in moments like this. They pass responsibility. They drift wide. They disappear. Bukayo did the opposite. He asked for the ball more. He took on defenders again. He made mistakes publicly and refused to retreat privately. That choice alone separated him from those who never recover. Goals followed. Not spectacular at first. Just important. Honest. Timely. A run to the back post. A calm finish. An assist under pressure. Each contribution was a brick laid back into his confidence. Arsenal began to rebuild, and at the center of it stood a young man many thought would shrink under pressure. Instead, he expanded. Leadership crept into his game, not through shouting, but through example, through consistency, through accountability. When Arsenal needed a spark, Bukayo delivered. When they needed discipline, he tracked back. When they needed courage, he showed up. But fear doesn't test you in ordinary moments. It waits for stakes. And the stakes were rising again. Big matches, big crowds, big expectations. Then came another international call-up, another England shirt, Another reminder of unfinished business. For some, wearing that shirt again would feel like reopening a scar. For Bukayo, it was unfinished work. He didn't run from it. He didn't hide from it. He owned it back. Each appearance with England was a quiet statement. Composed, direct, responsible. The crowd noticed. The nation noticed. The narrative began to change. Not because people forgot the penalty, but because they saw something stronger replacing it. Resilience, growth, maturity beyond his years. Bukayo Saka was no longer just a talent. He was becoming a symbol, a reminder that failure does not disqualify you from greatness. It introduces you to it. Then came the moments that defined belief. Late goals, high-pressure decisions, taking responsibility when others hesitated. And slowly, something powerful happened. Fear stopped leading the conversation. Confidence did. The missed penalty no longer sat in front of him. It stood behind him, pushing rather than pulling. Pain transformed into fuel. Memory became motivation. And the boy once blamed for a nation's loss was now helping a club and country believe again. Yet redemption is never complete until fear faces you directly. Not in small moments. Not in safe situations. But in the exact place it once broke you. And somewhere, quietly waiting, was the ultimate test. Another penalty, another silence, another walk toward the spot. The kind of moment that asks one final question. Did you really heal, or did you just survive? Bukayo Saka didn't know when it would come. He only knew it would. So he kept preparing. Penalty after penalty in training. Pressure after pressure in matches. Responsibility after responsibility in big games. He was no longer running from his past. He was training for its return. Because the universe always circles back. And when it does, it doesn't ask if you're ready. It reveals whether you are. Somewhere ahead, the noise would fade again. The ball would be placed again. The walk would begin again. And this time, the boy who once carried shame would carry something far heavier. Belief. Redemption does not announce itself. It arrives quietly, disguised as another ordinary moment, until suddenly it isn't ordinary at all. For Bukayo Saka, redemption did not come with fireworks or dramatic speeches. It came the only way it ever could have come, through the exact fear that once tried to define him. Because life does not test us in new ways when it wants to see if we've grown. It repeats the same test and watches what we do differently. By now, Bukayo Saka was no longer the fragile teenager people whispered about. He was a leader, a difference maker, a player opponents feared and teammates trusted. At Arsenal, he had become the heartbeat of the team, the one who showed up when games tightened, when pressure rose, when belief wavered. Week after week, he delivered not just goals and assists, but responsibility. And responsibility changes a person. It forces clarity. It strips excuses. It reveals character. But deep inside, there was still unfinished business. Not because others kept reminding him, but because he remembered. He remembered the silence. He remembered the walk. He remembered the wait. And he knew something most people never understand. You don't truly conquer fear by avoiding it. You conquer it by standing in the same place where it once beat you and choosing differently. The moment came without warning. Not in a final, not with a trophy on the line, but in a high-pressure match where everything still mattered. Arsenal were locked in battle. The stadium tense. The score tight. One decision away from momentum shifting. And then it happened. A foul in the box. The referee pointed to the spot. A penalty. Time slowed. This was not just another chance to score. This was history knocking again. This was memory stepping forward and asking one simple question. Who are you now? Teammates gathered. Senior players nearby. The ball placed on the spot. And then something that silenced the stadium even more than noise ever could. Bukayo Saka picked up the ball. No hesitation. No passing responsibility. No looking away. He walked forward with calm that could not be faked. The same walk that once carried doubt now carried certainty. His breathing steady. His face composed. Not because he forgot the past, but because he had made peace with it. This was not a battle against the goalkeeper. This was a conversation with himself. And this time, the voice of belief spoke louder. He struck the ball. Clean, confident, unstoppable. The net moved, And in that instant, something far greater than a goal was scored. A chapter closed, a weight lifted, a fear lost its grip. The stadium erupted, but the loudest noise happened inside Bukayo Saka's chest. Relief, pride, freedom. He didn't celebrate wildly. He didn't scream. He smiled. Because some victories don't need to be shouted. They are felt. That penalty did not erase a missed one. It transformed it. It turned pain into proof. Proof that failure does not have the final word unless you give it permission. Proof that courage can be rebuilt. Proof that the strongest people are not those who never fall, but those who return to the same ground where they fell and stand taller. From that moment on, something changed permanently. Bukayo played freer, bolder, sharper. He demanded the ball in the biggest moments. He took penalties again, free kicks, final minute responsibilities. And every time, he delivered. Not because he was perfect, but because he was fearless. And fearlessness is not born from comfort. It is forged through survival. The narrative shifted. Not quietly, completely. The missed penalty was no longer a wound. It became a reference point. Commentators spoke of resilience. Fans spoke of pride. Young players saw themselves in him. A teenager who failed on the biggest stage and still became a symbol of strength. In a world obsessed with instant success, Bukayo Saka became a reminder that greatness is often delayed, shaped by setbacks, and strengthened by adversity. But the most powerful transformation happened where cameras could not reach. Inside his mind, the question that once haunted him, what if it happens again, no longer carried power, because it did happen again. And this time, he stood firm. He did not run. He did not break. He delivered. This is the moment where dead dreams wake up, where people who almost gave up lean forward again. Because Bukayo Saka's story is not about football. It is about response. About refusing to let one moment become your identity. About choosing growth when quitting would have been easier. About understanding that the path forward sometimes leads straight through your fear. Yet even this was not the end. Because true greatness is not defined by one redeemed moment. It is defined by consistency after redemption. By leadership after applause fades, by humility after victory, and Bukayo Saka's journey was still climbing. Bigger nights were coming, bigger expectations, bigger stages. The world once saw a boy miss a penalty. Now it was watching a man rewrite his destiny. And what came next would silence every doubt forever. Redemption is powerful, but it is not the end of the journey. In many ways, it is the beginning of the hardest part. Because once you prove you can rise, the world expects you to stay there. Pressure doesn't disappear after redemption, it multiplies. For Bukayo Saka, the penalty he scored didn't just silence fear, it announced something to everyone watching. This player is no longer fragile. And from that moment on, the demands changed. At Arsenal, he was no longer the promising youngster. He was the standard, the player teams planned for, the one defenders doubled up on. The one fans looked to when games stalled and belief began to fade. Every touch now came with expectation, every mistake magnified, every decision judged. This is where many players fade again, crushed not by failure, but by responsibility. But Bukayo didn't push back against the weight. He leaned into it. He trained harder, recovered smarter, and approached matches with a level of focus that revealed how deeply the missed penalty had reshaped him. He became relentless. Not in flash, but in reliability. Week after week, he delivered. Goals in tight matches. Assists when creativity dried up. Defensive work when legs were tired. Leadership when voices went quiet. He was no longer playing to prove himself to critics. He was playing to honor his own standards. And that difference is everything. When you stop performing for approval and start performing from principle, pressure loses its teeth. Opponents tried to intimidate him. Physical challenges, psychological games, hostile atmospheres. None of it worked. Because once you survive public humiliation and come back stronger, very little can scare you again. The boy who once carried shame now carried composure. And composure is the most dangerous trait in elite sport. It spreads. Teammates felt it. Younger players followed it. Arsenal grew with him. A new identity formed. Fearless, disciplined, unified. Bukayo Saka wasn't just part of the rebuild. He was its foundation. With England, the transformation was just as clear. Each appearance felt heavier, not with fear, but with pride. The same crowd that once watched him fall now watched him lead. He took responsibility in big games, demanded the ball in tense moments, delivered when pressure rose. And something remarkable happened. The narrative fully flipped. Not because people forgot his past, but because they respected his response to it. The missed penalty became a footnote, not a headline. His character became the story. Off the pitch, Bukayo remained unchanged. Humble, grounded, grateful. He spoke about growth, not glory. About learning, not revenge. About faith, family, and discipline. He never weaponized his pain. He used it, quietly, purposefully. This is why his story resonates far beyond football. Because it mirrors life. We all have a moment that threatens to define us. A failure, a loss, a public mistake. And we all face the same choice afterward. Shrink or sharpen. Bukayo chose to sharpen. He understood something most people never realize until it's too late. That setbacks are not roadblocks. They are instructions. They teach you where you are weak. They force you to rebuild stronger. They expose what truly matters. The missed penalty didn't break him. It refined him. It removed fear of failure, because failure had already happened, and he survived it. Now, when big moments arrive, Bukayo doesn't flinch. He steps forward, calm, ready, certain. He has already faced the worst version of public disappointment and come back smiling. That gives you a rare kind of freedom. The freedom to play. The freedom to lead. The freedom to believe when others doubt. But this story is not just about trophies or goals or applause. It is about identity. About becoming unbreakable not because nothing hurts you, but because nothing controls you anymore. Bukayo Saka became unbreakable the moment he stopped fearing the moment that once broke him. And this is why his journey speaks to the weak, the tired, the ones almost giving up. Because if a teenager can fail on the biggest stage in the world, endure hatred, rebuild in silence, and rise stronger, then your story is not over either. The dream you think is dead may just be waiting for you to return to it with courage. Yet even now, Bukayo's journey continues. Bigger nights await. Greater expectations loom. New challenges rise. But one truth is now undeniable. Whatever comes next, he is ready. There is a moment in every life when quitting feels logical. Not dramatic, not emotional, just reasonable. The dream has taken too much. The pain has lasted too long. The effort hasn't been rewarded. And the voice inside begins to whisper, maybe this isn't for you. Bukayo Saka's story matters because it meets people exactly at that moment. Not when hope is loud, but when it is tired. Not when belief is easy, but when continuing feels foolish. After everything he endured, Bukayo could have chosen comfort. He could have played safe, avoided responsibility, protected his image, and built a quiet career away from risk. Nobody would have blamed him. But he understood something deeper, that safety never builds fulfillment. Only courage does. Every time he stepped onto the pitch after that missed penalty, he made a decision, not to prove the world wrong, but to refuse letting one moment own his future. What people rarely see is that resilience is not born in confidence. It is born in doubt. Bukayo did not come back fearless because he was strong. He became strong because he stayed present while fear tried to push him away. He showed up on days when motivation was gone. He trained when memories were loud. He took responsibility when others would have hidden. That is the difference between talent and greatness. Talent shows up when conditions are perfect. Greatness shows up anyway. His journey sends a message that cuts deeper than football. You are not weak for being hurt. You are not broken for failing. You are not finished because the world saw you fall. The only thing that ends a dream is refusing to stand back up. Bukayo stood up in silence. No speeches, no excuses. Just work, just patience, just belief repeated daily until it became unshakable. Think about what almost stopped you. The rejection, the mistake, the embarrassment, the moment people laughed, doubted, or turned away. That moment feels heavy because it is real, but it is not final. Bukayo's missed penalty did not disappear. It became part of his foundation. The same thing can happen to you. The thing that hurts you most can become the reason you are unstoppable if you choose growth over escape. This is a truth most people never hear. The comeback does not begin when things get better. It begins when you decide you are not done. Long before applause returns. Long before results change. Long before anyone notices. Bukayo's greatest victory was not the penalty he scored later. It was a decision he made the day after he missed, to continue, to train, to believe, to trust time. If you are tired, this story is for you. If you are doubting yourself, this story is for you. If you are one setback away from quitting, listen carefully. Dreams do not die when they are challenged. They die when they are abandoned. Bukayo Saka did not abandon his. And because he didn't, the world eventually watched him rise higher than the moment that tried to bury him. One missed penalty did not define him. One hateful night did not destroy him. One failure did not end his story. And neither does yours. So if you are still breathing, if the dream still hurts, if the fire is low but not gone, do not stop. You are closer than you think. The moment that almost broke you may be the very thing that proves who you are becoming. Because after the missed penalty, what came next was greatness.